Alright, so I took a little break from making videos, but I'm back. I've got one to do today. I'm going to be mounting an overhead ceiling storage rack above my oil tank here in the corner of my garage. The one I'm installing today is manufactured by Fleximounts. I did some research, and this is by far the best heavy-duty ceiling mount you can buy for the money, okay? At the very end, I'll link to the actual instructions along with a link to where you can purchase this thing for less than what you can buy it on Amazon for, okay? As we go through this, keep in mind my installation is atypical. My ceiling joists are not evenly spaced. Okay, so this is what we're talking about here. It mounts on the ceiling. I'm going to be mounting mine right here above my oil tank. And you can see I've got a 2x6 up there. I bought some 10-foot 2x6s, and what I'm going to do is actually mount those and correct alignment with these mounts so that I'm not having to hit those ceiling joists. If you're ceiling... Alright, so I already measured it out, and I've got a mark here. I'm just going to mark a straight line, zip that off the circular saw, and then I'll mark the other two, because I'm mounting 3 of these things, okay? Let me just cut this to length here real quick. Alright, this is the piece that normally would mount along your ceiling joist, okay? You can see I'm going to be mounting it on my 2x6, and it's actually a couple of inches wider than my 2x6. So I'm going to have to set my 2x6 off the wall by just over an inch, okay? And I'll show you what I mean by that when I get one up there, okay? Alright, so if you're a one-person operation like I am, you have to come up with ways to do things for yourself. So I've got a couple of screws there. And you can see they're set off the wall a little ways because I want my 2x6 to come back off the wall. So what I'm going to do is actually use this end and these screws to hold one end of my 2x6 up, and then I'll be able to, on the other end, measure it off the wall, make sure it's pretty much straight, and then get it mounted, okay? So let's go ahead and get this thing resting on those 2 screws. Okay, be careful not to tear my Reflectix. Okay, so you can see that just gives me a little bit of a stable base for this end. And now I'm going to go back to the other end, and I'll measure off the wall on both ends to make sure that my my 2x6 is parallel with my wall. Okay. All right, so I'm about 1 3/4 inches off the wall at this end, and I'm lucky because I have this oil tank to stand on. And I'm about 1 3/4 inches off the wall at this end. Okay, all I did was I drilled a hole because actually we're going to drill pilot holes when we use our lag bolts. I've got a long screw in here. This is not what we're going to use to hold this up, okay? We're going to use these lag bolts like this, okay? So we're going to get up in there and it's going to be solid, okay? But this is just so I could actually get it up there. It's supporting the weight of the 2x6. I can measure on the wall. Or off the wall rather, and make sure that I'm where I need to be, and I'm going to hit my last ceiling joist right down there, okay? So, alright, so I'm pretty lucky because I'm using Reflectix. I don't have drywall. If you have a finished drywall ceiling, you might want to use a stud finder or something, but I can just push up and see, and actually I've got tape here at this seam, so I know I want to drill my pilot's holes right here and here. I'm going to do 2 pilot holes per ceiling joist because I'm going to drive 2 lags into each ceiling joist. Okay, these are 3.5 inches long. I'm going to use washers. It's probably not necessary. And ideally, if I had a longer bit, we might want to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and try this. I'm not going to get too close to the edge because you don't want to split your 2x6. Okay, now this is the part that's not going to be fun if you don't have some kind of an impact driver or wrench. I could use my air impact, but I might snap it off and break something, so I'm going to use my electric impact, which is pretty much gutless, okay, to drive these in. Otherwise, you use an elbow grease and a ratchet, which I'm not going to do today. So let me go ahead and get these 2 mounted, and then I'm going to proceed with the rest of the boards, okay? Alright, so I just had a thought, if you're using like a 19.2 volt drill and you don't have an impact, what you can do is get some kind of an adapter to put a socket on. You could probably wind these in with your cordless drill, especially if you have a high-low on it. This particular one doesn't, my other one does. And you can put a socket on and drive it that way. When you're using a pilot hole, it's not going to go too bad, but we didn't get all the way up in there. So this is what I'm using. It's old. It may die on this job, but let's see what happens. See where we are here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get these all done. I'm not going to snug them all down. In fact, I should back that one off just a little bit so I get it mounted up there evenly. And then we'll move on to the other two, and then we'll start mounting the ceiling rack, okay? Just going to back that off just a hair. That one went a little crooked. Okay, so you get the idea. I'm going to do that for every ceiling joist, okay? Let me finish this one up. Alright, so let's just take a quick look at the template that they provide. This is basically it. On the Amazon review, somebody said, oh, there was no template. This is the template. It looks like a piece of cardboard that's in the box. This is all you need. It shows the spacing between two brackets, okay? So you would use this along your ceiling joist as if this were your ceiling joist. You're basically going to use this as your template, and you would drill your pilot holes using this, okay? Obviously, my installation is a little different, so let's take a quick look at how I have mine set up. Okay, so again, I used 2 screws on the end there supporting my 2x6. When I measured the distance between the holes on the template from the front and the back, I came up with 23 inches, so I want 23 inches on the center between my boards, and then I'm going to mount a third one out here, okay? And I'll get a quick shot of Jimmy there. Alright, so if you don't have a cabinet like I have, you could use your ladder to support it, okay? Something like that. Anything to basically hold one side of it, and then basically what I'm used is just quickly I drive a screw up in, I take a quick measurement. Obviously I measure before I drive the screw, but take a quick measurement. If it's off a little bit, I nudge it over, drive a screw. That's how I do it, you know, the one person operation, okay? The one man show, one person show. All right, so let me go ahead and get this one mounted, and then we'll move on to the third, and then we'll actually start mounting the ceiling mount by Fleximounts, okay? All right, let's take a quick look. I'm going to use the template that Fleximounts provided, okay? So I'm going to push it right up against the wall, and we're good here. You can see, again, it's 23 inches between the two boards if you're doing this installation. Otherwise, you're just going to lay this up against your ceiling joist and mark it off and drill pilot holes. Okay, I have a little bit of flexibility there, and I need to basically get this one mounted with my lag bolts and then move on to my third one, and then we'll be ready to mount the ceiling rack from Fleximounts, okay? Let me just go ahead and get this all finished up, and then we'll move on to the rack. You probably don't want to see any more of this. You get the gist of it, all right? Alright, we're just about ready to get this thing mounted, but I wanted to show you too, if you wanted to mount this rack in a different direction than what your ceiling joists are going. So let's say this is your ceiling joist, you would take your 2x6s and you would run them this way. Okay, so you can actually use this method of installation to install your ceiling rack in the opposite direction of your ceiling joist too. Okay, so let's go ahead and start putting this one together, so that we can get it mounted here in the center, and then we'll be on our way. All right, you can see what I've done here. I just took some thumbtacks, I put the template up where I want it, I kind of penciled it in. You can see I had it a little closer there, and because of this split I decided to pull it away just a little bit. I used a straight edge to come off the wall to make sure it's coming off the wall straight, and I'm just going to go ahead and basically line these holes up and do this last one down here. Okay, and that's going to give me a starting point. I was going to start in the middle, but I think I'm going to start on this end and go this way. Okay, so let me go ahead and mark the other 2x6. Alright, 13 millimeter, and you probably need a ratchet and a wrench because these are lock nuts. And you need to do 4 bolts to make a 4x4 section, and then you need 4 more bolts to the 2 4x4s to make 8. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and get this put together. You probably don't need to watch this either. Kind of boring. Okay, on the center ones, you can see we've got 2 holes here, 2 holes here, and this is why we wanted these to be flush. This has got a little lip, which is nice, so it's not just the bolts supporting this, the weight of this, and whatever you've got on it. It's got a little lip. I'm going to use the same provided bolts and locking nuts. Incidentally, this Fleximount ceiling storage rack supports a weight of 540 pounds, and I know that my 2x6 are going to support at least that, so I think we're in good shape here. Yeah, let's see if we can make it a little faster. Okay, I wanted to take a quick minute and mention too that the Fleximount system does include wrenches as well as mounting hardware in case you were mounting into concrete. So it's a complete system, which is actually quite nice. Okay, I'm not using their wrenches, I'm using a socket and a ratchet obviously. Now look at the corner one. Again, additional structural support, so that's pretty nice. That just slides in here on the corner. And again, we're not just talking about the bolts holding the weight, we're talking about structural support that's built into the brackets themselves. So that's actually pretty nice. Okay, let me grab my socket and ratchet here. Okay, so you can see that split I was talking about there. So I came back off the wall just a little bit. Again, we're using a 3/16 inch drill bit, and these are the lags that they provided. Okay, so let me go ahead and start drilling some holes here. Okay, the pieces that we are mounting up here are slotted, so we do have some, some wiggle room. Okay, so keep that in mind. Wiggle room is always good. And I'm using this this mark here that I made. This is the first attempt, and I thought it was a little too close. So I'm just going to center it out. Through that one a couple times where it's got the crack. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Okay, we move on to the other ones here real quick. This one's pushed out a little bit. Alright, so again we're using the electric impact wrench, and so far so good. It hasn't quit on me yet, so not bad. Alright, now these I am going to leave somewhat loose because I might need to slide it one way or another, okay? So I just dropped my socket. Let me grab that real quick. Alright, so the instructions are saying only 2 lags per bracket. Obviously, if you're mounting along your ceiling joist, you could do more if you thought it was required, but we're talking 540 pounds, not a tremendous amount of weight, especially when we have 8 mount points. You know, some of the brackets out there don't. They only have end support. This one's got center support also for an 8-foot ceiling rack. It's pretty nice. This is the one we have the crack. And it doesn't appear that it cracked anymore, so I think we're in good shape. Yeah, I can get them up there closer. Right. Back it off just a hair. Okay, so you can imagine this can slide, and then when we get the rack itself up, we'll be able to slide that back and forth if we need to. So we've got a lot of room for error, okay? Or play. Wiggle room is what we call it. All right, let's move on. I'm just going to get the other two hung up here, and we'll see if we can get this thing partially supported. All right. All right, you can see what I've got going on here so far. I've left everything pretty loose. Maybe it's overkill, but until I get one side mounted, I'm just going to leave it loose and I'll tighten them down. Okay, the nice thing is this thing is adjustable from 22 inches to 40 inches, so I can actually drop this thing down almost on top of my old tank. Alright, so this is what we look like right now. You can see I've got it supported by my oil tank, so my installation is pretty nice because I have built-in support. What I'm going to do initially here is I'm going to get it up higher than that cabinet right there. And I also don't want it where I could be walking into it and hitting my head. But it's nice to know that you have a lot of flexibility as far as the height adjustment on this. I mean, you don't even need a ladder. You can just set things up on this. But I am going to get it up off the oil tank a little bit. And then if I decide to move that cabinet, maybe I'll drop it down. Okay. So they do want you to have 2 carriage bolts per union. Okay, one at the top, one at the bottom. Initially, I think just until I get my height figured out, I'm just going to support it and hang it and get. Alright, just a couple of quick notes. You can see I'm making progress. I've got everything tightened down. Now, if you're going into a corner like this, that back corner is going to be tough to tighten down. Just tighten it down. I was a little overcautious with leaving things loose. You've got enough play everywhere else to make it fit. Okay, so I did actually support my weight. I put a piece of cardboard up there and just kind of laid up, tied it down. Okay, the other thing I might have shown incorrectly is your carriage bolts are not used on your T-joint at the top. They're only used on these extension pieces. There are only 16 of them, and you need 2 per extension. So you're going to use your regular bolts at the T place. So I'll show you where that is. Actually, I don't know if you can see up there. So that where that extension connects to that brace piece is a bolt, not a carriage bolt. Okay, a hex bolt. Okay, so on the back side there I used carriage bolts. I've since replaced those, and we're back in business. Okay, let me go ahead and get this assembled, and we're going to get it back together and finish it up. Alright, so I'm just going to join these two grids together, continue on here with my assembly, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish this up, and I'll show you the finished product when I'm done. I'm also going to include some links to the actual instructions as well as a purchase link where you can actually get this thing at a reduced price, okay? So stay tuned for that. I'll be right back to show you the finished product, alright? Alright, I'm finally done. You can see I stuck a couple of coolers up there. There's plenty of room for coolers. That's at the highest setting. This thing has a ton of adjustment. I could drop it way down if I wanted to. As low as 44 inches, okay? So you can see that I've already stuck a couple of extension cords. Just takes a quick little S-hook here to utilize this space even more. The thing is sturdy. It's not going anywhere. It'll support 540 pounds. The thing is awesome. Fleximounts. Check it out. I'm going to post a link right now to where you can find the actual instructions as well as a link to where you can purchase it at a greatly reduced price. So hey, if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber right there. Stay tuned and click those other links so you can find out how Fleximounts suggests you install it, and you can learn more about the product itself. Okay? Thanks for watching and have fun.